My name's Nicole Mead. I am mom to Ryder, who's 6 years old. He has Angelman syndrome. And I'm really excited to be moderating the panel for today, for the session A here. We are so a couple of reminders. We are gonna have an opportunity to ask questions, but if you would please wait until Mary-Louise or any of the speakers are done before we ask questions, that would be great. And then the other thing is if you could please silence your phones. That would be great. And before we start, I also just wanted to thank FAST for this wonderful opportunity to be able to have our amazing speakers here today and to be able to get this full day education session. It's always really, really valuable. And we're super, super sorry that Kate Ahern, who's very beloved in our community, wasn't able to make it for health reasons. And we'll be missing her, but we still have a great program for you today. So the first session today is communication in the young child with Angelman syndrome, and I know I personally, as soon as I was diagnosed, hit the ground running that day with just being like, well, if this kid has Angelman syndrome, how's he gonna talk? How's he gonna communicate? Like, one has to communicate. That's an essential. And so that this to me, when my son's still young, but when we were first diagnosed and he was very, very young, this kind of lecture would have been gold to me. So I'm very, very happy to be able to introduce Mary-Louise Bertram, who has forbade me from reading her bio. And I'm going to respect that. So I'm just going to freestyle my introduction and just say that Mary-Louise is one of a kind. When I first heard of who she was, I was like, well, what's her connection to Angelman syndrome? And it's a long answer, but just suffice it to say that she doesn't have a child with Angelman syndrome, but she has now been part of our community for many, many years and has, I know, personally held the hand of many, many people in their communication journey, and we are so very grateful that she's here. On top of being, at this point, world-renowned expert in this, she's lovely, she's fun, she's wonderful to be around, and we're really happy to have her. So, without further ado.
Now I've got to be really good. All right. So, first of all, I'd like to say welcome to the Angelman community. It's not a club that any of you probably dreamed you'd be in, but you're here, and it is an amazing global community of supportive professionals and parents. And the thing I love about the Angelman community is that no matter what time it is, someone will post on Facebook, my child's doing this funny blinking thing, and within 5 minutes on the other side of the world, 5 people have responded exactly what it is. So it's a gorgeous community, and I just want to welcome you. I've been in the Angelman community for about 10 years now. My baptism by fire into the Angelman community was when I was an early childhood teacher, and I had 6 children in my class, and 4 of them had Angelman or deletion positive. So that was my introduction into the world of Angelman. It was an amazing class, beautiful children. We were doing incredible literacy and communication work, which I assumed everyone in the world was doing. And when I started joining the Angelman listserv, this was before the days of Facebook, I found out, no, this wasn't the case, that a lot of people with Angelman around the world were being denied communication access, were being expected to have certain prerequisites before they were given communication systems. So in the last 10 years, we've worked really, really hard, and I'd like to say thank you to all the parents and professionals around the world who have kicked off and helped sustain the Angelman communication revolution. We now have lots of resources in languages all around the world. So no matter if you speak French, Spanish, Brazilian, Greek, Cypriot, there is languages and there is communication resources, communication books ready for you and your child. So I'll just talk about a couple of the children that I've worked with. Izzy has deletion positive Angelman. She is G-tube fed, so for those in Australia, she has a peg. Izzy has refractory epilepsy, she has cortical vision impairment, she has sensory processing challenges. She's in early intervention and she's not using symbols to communicate, she uses her behaviour to communicate. Izzy isn't toilet trained and Izzy currently chews on books. Does Izzy sound like anyone you know? Yeah. And Jenna. Jenna attends her local daycare. She's a big sister, she loves to wrestle with her brother. Her parents use POD, which is a type of alternative and augmentative communication, to communicate with her. Jenna attends gymnastics classes with her friends. She's heading into preschool at her local school next year. Her favourite colour is bright red. She rides her adapted bike each afternoon with her daddy and a dog, and she loves books and she loves being read to. So Jenna and Izzy are the same child. How you speak about your child matters. How you present your child to professionals matters. You need to be honest about your child's challenges, but be honest about your child's gifts. And beware the deficit model. The deficit model is what Google tells you about Angelman. It's what doctors and geneticists tell you about Angelman. So what we are here to do is reframe Angelman and stop it being a list of can'ts and turn it into a list of not yets. We're reframing Angelman syndrome. You have to see your child first and foremost. Your child is strategic. He or she does what they do for a reason. Sometimes it takes the whole community to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, but they do it for a reason. We presume potential in our children. Children have incredible potential to learn, to develop, to do amazing things. And as professionals, we reflect on our practice. When we know better, we do better. And what we've seen in the last 10 years of the Angelman communication revolution is trying to say to people, now we know better. We have the research evidence for what we're doing. We have the clinical base for what we're doing. So we need to do better. We have open expectations. So it's not saying that we're setting the bar super high and all kids with Angelman are going to graduate college. No. We're setting open expectations. We're saying we don't know what you are capable of unless we give you the opportunity. If we open up these opportunities, if we teach you really well, if we support you to communicate, I just don't know what you're capable of. And we have to start doing that now. Whether the therapeutics come next week or next year or in 5 years' time, the work starts now. We aim for self-regulation rather than compliance. We need to support our children to understand their sensory needs and how to regulate themselves because they are incredibly vulnerable. And we don't want them to learn to go with anyone just because someone says, come with me. So we work on self-regulation. And language and literacy and AAC are vital and they start now. And the other thing that we reframe is we have to think, do we want support for a full life or a life full of support? And often when we talk about the deficit model and the language that doctors and geneticists use, your child will need someone their whole life. Well, actually, your child will need supports to have a full life. Your child will need OT, physio, speech therapy, friends, peers, a community, a tribe. That's support for a full life. There are certain characteristics of children with Angelman syndrome. Very curious, very tenacious, super determined, persistent, problem solvers, hands-on learners, enthusiastic, and kids with Angelman are the boredom barometers in your classroom. They will let you know if this lesson is done and dusted. So these are the characteristics we want people to know about. These are the kids we want people falling in love with. Bugger the Google version, these are your kids. Your child is amazing. Your child has incredible potential. Your child is already a communicator. And your child is your child Angelman syndrome personified has not come to live in your house. Your child is more than Angelman syndrome. Your child has more in common with your bossy mother-in-law sometimes than with Angelman syndrome. So I need you to remember that. So why is communication so important for you and your team to understand? When we talk about communication, we talk about receptive language, so the ability to process and understand language going in. There are some children with Angelman who have real struggles with receptive language. They struggle to understand speech. The vast majority of children with Angelman don't. Their receptive understanding far outweighs what they can express. But there are some children, and your child might be one of them, who you really aren't sure if they actually understand anything you're saying. So we have to think of how we're going to present language alternately to those children. We need to understand what expressive language is. How is my child going to express all the thoughts and ideas and funny things inside her head? Angelman kids are funny. They have this sense of humour that's wonderful. We need them to share their ideas and their comments. And the goal of all of this is autonomy. Autonomy means being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it with who I want to do it. So when we're thinking about supports for a full life, when we're thinking about therapy, the goal is autonomy. It's not independence, because some of our people will never be independent. But if they're autonomous, they can choose who supports them. They have control and choice over their life, over which support worker comes and help, over which friends they go out with that day. So autonomy is the goal. Independence might support that autonomy, but for some of our kids, they're never going to be independent. There's always going to be someone there, either for a medical reason or for just support. But you can still have choice and control and autonomy over your life. So that's our goal. When we talk about communication autonomy, that's our goal for communication. It's our vision, it's our aim, and it's our shared language when we're talking with professionals. So our goal for our children is communication autonomy. And that is to be able to say what I want to say, when I want to say it, to who I want to say it, and however I want to say it. And that's Gail Porter's quote. She's a speech pathologist from Melbourne, Australia. And when we look at the goal of communication autonomy, then we can start to evaluate what communication interventions are going to meet this goal. If it's a communication intervention where I say, you touch that symbol, and you touch it, you're not telling me what you want to say, you're doing what I told you to do. So how is that going to develop communication autonomy? When I'm saying hit the switch, and you're doing it and complying with that, that's not teaching communication autonomy. Communication autonomy is knowing what's on that switch and hitting it 87 times at the dinner table when you want to hit it, to hear the reaction that that gets, and to learn, oh, when I do that, she does that. When I hit the button that says hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, mum and dad start scurrying around and going, oh my goodness, we have to hurry up. And then they're texting, oh my God, she touched the button. That's communication autonomy. Your child is already a communicator. Your child has his or her own natural language. So they may not be using alternative and augmentative communication, they may be, but they already have their own natural language. Your child will need symbolic language, though, to express their most innermost thoughts, emotions, desires, and ideas, and to meet the curriculum. But first, let's have a look at this natural language and how we can record our children's natural language and share it with others. So we use what's called a natural language inventory or a communication inventory. And so you see this as a table, and the first column says the context, when this happens. Next column, he does this. We think it means, and so we do this. So what does this look like when we fill it out? Let's have a look at Michael's. When this happens, Grandpa arrives. So that's the context, Grandpa arriving. Michael does this. He squeals and flaps his arms. we think it means? Well, we think he's excited to see Grandpa. That's what we think that means. And so we do this. We join in with his excitement and talk about Grandpa and help him hug Grandpa safely. That's what we do. So we're interpreting Michael's natural language, his natural enthusiasm. He's naturally commenting, saying, oh my goodness, Grandpa's here. And so we're doing this. So when we're recording all Michael's natural language, we're helping other people at daycare, our support workers, our aunties, our uncles to understand Michael does these things for a reason and he's communicating. And so we can all start responding the same way. When the iPad battery's flat, Michael cries and throws the iPad or grabs our hands to show us the iPad. We think it means he's frustrated, sad, angry, annoyed that the iPad's flat. And so we do this. We explain that the iPad's broken, we show him we have put it on charge, and we try to distract him with something else, usually a phone. So, as familiar to some people. So does this make sense? We're trying to work out all the things that the children are communicating using their body, their face, their vocalisations, their words, their signs, and making this little dictionary for our tribe. So all our tribe can start to see Michael as a communicator. And this is really helpful when you're going to meet with your therapist for the first time and your speech therapist saying, what's he doing? Rather than saying, well, he doesn't have any words and he cries, show them your natural language inventory. Say, look at all the things he's doing. But he needs language to do more. And he needs language so that other people can understand what he's doing. The benefits of a natural language inventory show that what your child is actually already communicating now. And for some of our children, they communicate really well when they want something. They might lead you to what they want. They'll grab your hand and put it on the thing that they want. They'll look at you, then look at the thing that they want. That's really high-level communication, to request that thing. So if your kid is doing so well with requesting, why is the speech therapist implementing PECS, which is teaching requesting? You've now got a natural language inventory to say, you know what, doing great with requesting because his body language, he's running around the house, he's going to the cupboard, he's getting the biscuits. He knows what he wants. But he's not commenting. He's not saying, I love you. He's not saying something's wrong, I just had a seizure. So why are you implementing something that just teaches him to request? I want language. It gets everyone on the same page and it makes sure that everyone deals with things the same way. So we know, so daycare know, when mum leaves, dad does this. Okay, when mum leaves daycare staff do the same thing. So we're supporting our children with consistency and clear boundaries and expectations. If you need support to brainstorm all the ways your child is communicating, there's a free resource online called the Pragmatics Profile for AAC users. It's an interview tool from the ACE Centre in the UK, and it helps you brainstorm all the things that your child is communicating and how they're doing it. And it's a really helpful piece of paper, a booklet that you can take to your speech therapist on that first meeting and say, this is all the stuff he's doing. When we think about Angelman, there are certain characteristics, certain issues that across the board, no matter what the spectrum of severity is that your child has with Angelman, there are issues that are similar for everybody. And one of the key issues is motor planning issues. So when we need to understand about how we're going to meet that communication autonomy goal, we have to think about, well, one of the things that we're dealing with is motor planning issues. And the dyspraxia that children with Angelman have means they can think what they want to do, but the barrier is getting their body to do it in a timely manner. And sometimes you will see the disconnect where if you say touch the red one, you will see them looking at the red one, you will see them start flapping, you will see them start rocking, or you might see them frozen. And you know that they know that's the red one, but they physically, neurologically cannot get their body to do it. So people think they don't know what the red one is. That's dyspraxia. If you go and use a different motor loop and say, ooh, there's chocolate under the red one, boom, they've got it. So we have to be really careful how we're assessing the children. We have to understand about the motor planning issues, because we need to know that assessment is simply an observation of a physical response to sensory input. So sensory input might be a question that I've asked, an auditory input for them, or I might be showing them something, giving them visual input. And I'm looking for a motor response to assess whether they understood that. So we have to be very careful with assessment. We need to understand about dyspraxia. We need to understand about the hand-eye coordination. We need to understand about the children's body awareness or lack thereof. Some of our children, their hands are flapping and the hand comes across and they're like, oh, hello, what's that? And it goes away again. Due to the sensory processing issues, the motor planning issues, for many children, they're not weight bearing through their limbs. They're not getting constant feedback about, oh, this is an arm. One thing that we've found in many families is when parents are dressing and bathing typically developing toddlers, they will say, oh, we're going to wash your arm. Oh, and then we're dressing. Let's put your arm in through your pyjamas, or now we need to step your foot into your pyjamas. Let's do the zip up. Oh, there's your tummy. Where's tummy gone? Oh, goodbye, tummy. So the child's learning about their body. The stress that disability places on families of young children with disabilities means that often baths are something to get through and dressing is a battle. So the children miss out on that understanding, that general interaction about, oh, put my arm through here. Mum says arm every time I do this. This must be my arm. So when we think about the language that the children are missing out on, it's nobody's fault, but it is something we need to acknowledge and understand. Because if we're to teach, put your arm here, reach the, touch the, move your arm this way, use your hand, you have to know what your arm and hand are. And you can't see your own head. So someone has to let you know this is your head. And when you're teaching nodding and shaking for yes and no, you might need to give some feedback that, hey, this is your head. This is your head. And your head can go down and up for yes. And what we see in children with Angelman, where they're learning to say yes and no, is they'll often start with a body crunch. The whole body goes down. And you're getting that visual feedback that, yes, I'm going down and up. What we need to teach them is the isolation of body parts, that actually you can move your head without your whole body. So we have to understand about teaching them about their body, about brushing their hair. Oh, there's your head. Oh, look, there's your eyes, nose, singing the silly songs, making up stupid songs, doing the silly dad jokes. The difficulty with isolating body parts also includes the symmetry that the children have. They'll start to reach this hand and this hand comes out. This hand will start going like this and this hand will start going like this. So we need to support the children to learn asymmetry, to learn to isolate this hand. And sometimes that means we need to teach stabilising this hand. Some of our kids are really clever and they will sit on their hand, they'll lock it under the desk, they'll stick it down their trousers so that they can use this hand. Kids are strategic and they do things for a reason. So sometimes we need to teach. That hand stays down, this hand goes up. Oh, you're reaching for that toy. Help them. That hand stays down, this hand goes up. So all those games that you're doing in OT to reach all those different places, you're supporting communication autonomy because you have to be able to reach and touch something if you're going to use direct access AAC. So your goal for your physio and your OT, the overarching goal of everything is communication autonomy, because we want our children to be able to show us with their bodies what they want, to be able to use their alternative communication to tell us what they have in their head. So if everyone's on the same page, hey, we are working towards communication autonomy. That might mean getting up and going and get something. It might mean using your AAC, it might be using a sign, it might be pointing to a cup. It might simply be looking at a cup and looking at mum, and that tells her, I want a drink. In our older children with Angelman, we often see tremors, and the tremors affect our communication. So we need to support people to understand that these motor planning issues are a thing. And rather than just seeing the doom and gloom of the Angelman diagnosis, let's unpack it and see all the things the kids have got going on. So when we're looking to teach, when we're looking to assess, when we're looking at communication systems, we can really strategically see exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. Sensory processing issues, many of the children have. You'll see lots of vestibular issues, not knowing where I am in space, rocking, head rolling, shaking your head, bouncing, flapping, needing to figure out where my body is in space. There are some children who have huge proprioceptive sensory processing issues. They really need to feel tight squeezes. They like sitting in tubs. They need to feel where their body is. So we can support this and say, actually, if you need all that input for your body to understand where it is, so you can access your higher cognitive functions, guess what? At school, it's okay for you to sit in a tub. It's okay for you to sit in a washing basket packed with pool noodles. If that's what you need at this point in your life to meet your sensory needs so that you can access your brain that needs to be accessed for higher learning, that's just what you do. If we need to support you in supported seating so that you feel where your body is and you are stabilised so that you can use your arms without your whole body coming in, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to be really thoughtful about what seating systems we use, how we use OT support. We might need to do some swinging before we do some literacy work. But we've got to support the children to understand their sensory needs and for us to help them meet their sensory needs so they can show their potential. Because if all the body is seeking is rocking and tightness, the brain can't handle read a story to me right now. The brain is working on meeting these sensory needs, those base needs first. We often see tactile defensiveness in our little kids with Angelman. Nope, can't touch that. I can touch plastic, I can chew plastic, but don't you dare put Play-Doh there, that's just revolting. So working on doing the brushing protocol has worked with some families, working on using your hands, understanding that you've got hands, doing weight bearing through your hands. All of that is working towards communication autonomy because you need to understand where your arms are and you need to be able to use your hands for communication. So everything is interlinked. When you and your team see communication autonomy as the goal, everything is a piece to that puzzle. Some of our children have auditory processing issues. So when we look at assessment and we say, okay, that's an observable response to auditory input, in history it has been, okay, I tell the child to do something and they don't do it. I'm assuming they don't do it because they have an intellectual disability and can't comprehend what they're saying. Now we are trying to work out where is the breakdown. Is the breakdown to that verbal instruction in the auditory processing? We haven't even got to cognition yet. It's simply the brain can't process what I've said, so how on earth can they do what I've asked them to do? Is the breakdown at cognition? It's okay to have an intellectual disability. It's okay to struggle to understand sometimes. It's up to us to figure out how to support you to understand things differently. It's up to us to present things differently so you can understand things. But if the breakdown is in cognition, that's okay. But the breakdown might be that I simply can't get my body to do that in a timely manner. So I might understand and process your instruction. I might know exactly what I need to do. And I just cannot get my body to do it so that you can tick off your chart that I can do it. So be really careful when your child's being assessed that people are mindful that you don't actually know where the breakdown is because it's in your child's head and nobody's got any information about what's going on there at the moment. So when your child is labelled as a pre-intentional communicator, as having a severe intellectual disability, who the hell knows? I certainly don't know, and I've been working with Angelman for 10 years. So, there's mice in the lab that do strange and wonderful things when the mice have Angelman. We can't get into their head, but we can work out through the observation of a motor response what is happening. But we have to work out really carefully, without judging the children on their intellect, where is this breaking down? Some of our children have visual processing issues. So you may have heard of cortical vision impairment. Cortical vision impairment is a specific type of brain-based vision impairment where the eyes are fine, there's no ocular issue whatsoever, so the ophthalmologist can't see any issue, but you know that that child isn't processing what he's seeing in the same way as a typical child. And cortical vision impairment has 10 specific characteristics, and the assessment for the cortical vision impairment is called the CVI range. And Dr. Roman Lancy is the guru of cortical vision impairment. Some of our children meet the 10 characteristics for cortical vision impairment, and so you can get support from Perkins Institute, from CVI Scotland or Little Bear Seas if you think your child has cortical vision impairment. Some children with Angelman don't meet those characteristics, but you can just tell they're not using their vision like typical kids do. So given the neurology of Angelman, those children may have a cerebral visual impairment. So it's an impairment of how the brain is processing what the eyes are seeing. Now, because it's a brain-based visual impairment and the brain is plastic and the brain can learn, we can support the child to learn to understand what they're seeing. So glasses won't fix it, but certainly interventions that we do for cortical vision impairment will support your child to use their vision better. And I don't have it on this slide, but one thing we've noticed in the last couple of years, the more work we've been doing on vision and the brain and children with Angelman syndrome, is around strabismus. Now, if a young child has strabismus, have a squint, and one eye is going out that way and one eye is going ahead. Eventually the brain stops listening to the eye that's going out here. They're only listening to this eye. Even if that is surgically corrected and the child looks like they've got binocular vision, that they're looking and processing through two eyes, they may not be. Because if the brain has only been listening to one eye for a long time, it'll keep trying to put that eye out. And that's why kids need repeated surgery, because the brain is saying to that eye, I don't like what I'm processing from here, get out the way, I will just want to listen to this eye. So for some of our children who have had corrective strabismus surgery and look like they're seeing out of both eyes, their brain may still just be processing from one eye. And these children use their vision in really interesting ways because the midline is no longer here, the midline is halfway between this eye. So these children will be doing things like this because they're not seeing out of here, they're just seeing out of this eye. So they use their head and their body in really interesting ways. Many of our children with cortical vision impairment, no matter what the diagnosis, struggle processing auditory input and visual input at the same time. And this means they cannot look and listen at the same time. So if you've got a child who you know will look at you and then when you're talking will look away, will look up at the lights. If they use their iPad, if they watch the same thing over and over again, sometimes they're listening, sometimes they're looking. Sometimes they're listening, sometimes they're looking. Your child isn't connecting at the same time the auditory and visual input. So that's something we need to understand because if the teacher's saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, I can't hear you. So as a teacher and as a therapist, you need to decide, do you want me to listen or do you want me to look? When we think about key issues affecting children with Angelman, especially when they're little, seizure activity is huge. For many children, seizure activity is their number one issue when they're little, and sometimes again when they're teenagers. Living a life with absence seizures, being in non-convulsive status, dealing with seizure meds, the weaning on, the weaning off, is enormous for many little kids with Angelman. Sleep is another huge issue. The impact that lack of sleep has on seizures, the impact that it has on sensory processing, the impact it has on anxiety and mood, and the impact that sleep has on family is enormous because you're the ones that are having to do all these interventions we're talking about. So I need families of little people with Angelman to understand that if you are doing everything you can at this point in time to support your child to get stable seizures and to sleep, you are doing everything you can to support your child's communication. Because when a child is seizing a head off, when a child is only sleeping for 40 minutes every 48 hours, their brain isn't in a space to learn. And you're not in a space to be modelling alternative communication like a guru. So I need you to know that at the moment, if you're just visiting neurologist after neurologist, if you're weaning meds and starting new meds, if you're on CBD, if you're trialling the VNS and you're not sleeping, that's okay. Because you are fighting the fight for everything you can do to address your child's development and communication. One of the issues for Angelman is focus and attention. Many people will say kids with Angelman are easily distracted. Actually, kids with Angelman notice everything. They have no filters. The lawnmower out there and the dog 2 kilometres away is just as important as Nana right here. I don't have the filters to know what's important to listen to and what's not. So supporting your child to build those filters. Yes, you name it. Yes, I can hear the lawnmower out there. We don't have to listen to the lawnmower. We don't worry about that because we're reading a story right now. You're telling your child what that noise is and whether it's an important thing. You're helping them build those filters. But we have to name it first. We can't just say we're reading a book or it's bath time, because the kid will be at the window going, I need to know what this thing is. So we name it and we redirect. And you might need to do that for a long time, but we are supporting them to build filters and to learn to attend to the important information so that when they do get to school and the principal comes in and your child's there going, oh my God, there's a new person in the room. Did you get the memo? I'm super cute and I'm here and I need to see you. Then the teacher can say, yes, Mrs. Smith is in the room. We'll say hello to Mrs. Smith and then we'll get back to our work. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because not everyone got the memo that the kids are cute, so you've got to check. Got to check you got the memo. You've got to check for that eye contact. And supporting your child to stabilise their body so they can attend and focus. So it's okay if your child needs supportive seating for school, if your child needs supportive seating to eat, because we need them to support their body so they can do the fine motor stuff, so they can access their higher order cognitive skills, because we've met those body needs. So we've talked about vision. The inbuilt desire of people with Angelman to engage with people's faces and the desperate need for eye contact is something across the board, and we need to acknowledge that. So when we're walking down, if you want your child to focus on it, and we talk about it at schools, if your child's walking down the hall and they're trying to get the attention of everyone that's walking past, we tell them, yep, hello Mrs. Smith, I'm walking. I'm walking to class. I'm walking to the shops. Oh, yes, and you're in a shopping centre and your child's getting eye contact from absolutely everyone. And all the nanas are coming over and telling how cute they are and saying, why is he still in a stroller? And you're trying to work out how you're going to answer that question for the 87th time this week. You're saying, okay, what's our next job? We're looking for the milk. We're walking for the milk. Doing that verbal vomit dialogue all the time. We're walking to the milk. Oh, look, there's a lady. Say hello. We're walking to the milk. Helps when your child is walking and you can confidently stand next to them and say, we're walking to the milk. Yep, we say hello to that lady. We don't need to touch her purse. We're walking to the milk. So we're teaching that inner dialogue so the child can have that on their own, have that inner speech. I'm walking to the milk, I'm walking to the milk, I'm walking to the pool, I'm walking to the pool, my hands are safe, my feet are down, I'm walking to the pool, my hands are down. And our kids do learn that. They do learn that inner speech. I control my hands, I don't need to touch anything, I control my hands, I'm walking to the pool. Because it certainly makes life a lot easier for everybody. Another issue affecting your child's communication are adults that your child will come into contact with. Because adults think that they know what your kid wants all the time. Adults sometimes think that your child isn't communicating, and this might be a professional. Adults might be the geneticist, might be the doctor who will say he'll never communicate. Adults might be the speech therapist who insists on prerequisites before communication devices and systems. Adults might be the teacher who insists on prerequisite skills before introducing a rich curriculum. So you are going to have these barriers of adults in your child's life that it might be up to you to tear down. What we need to remind people is that perception drives expectation. How you perceive a child will drive your expectations of that child. Your expectations of that child will influence the opportunities you provide that child. If you don't have any expectations of that kid to learn anything, you're not going to provide them with any opportunities. If you have open expectations and you don't know what that child's capable of, you're going to give them amazing opportunities to show that. Only opportunity drives achievement. You can't showcase something you've never had the opportunity to do. Now imagine if we, before the iPhone came out, if we were given a test to see if we could operate an iPhone. We'd be on a Motorola flip phones trying to work out how to do it. Or the old Nokia brick. None of us would have known. The way we learnt is that we had the opportunity to line up for an iPhone and to get one and to fiddle around and work out how it works. And that's how kids with Angelman learn. By getting something, pulling it apart, putting it back together again, fiddling with it and finding out how it works. So you can't showcase what you can do with a communication system if you've never had the opportunity to do it. And it is criminal that we still give children 4-week trials with communication devices and expect them to prove they can use it before we fund it. That's the game we have to play. But we need our professionals to know if the kid's never had the opportunity, they're not going to show you in a 30-minute speech session what they can do. And only the achievement will drive the perception. So when the child is achieving something, people's perceptions of that child are very, very different. This is why we teach our children to nod or shake their head yes and no, or to say yes and no. Because when they're in the shop and someone says, "Oh, g'day mate, you having a good day?" and that kid goes, they go, "Oh, okay, I'll keep talking to you because you understood me." The perception drives the expectation. The perception drives the opportunities. We've talked about that. When we talk about assessment, we've talked about the difficulty that the children have in standardised assessments, the difficulty that the children have in assessments for communication devices. So we can't accept that these professionals are making decisions in 30-minute sessions that will affect our children for years. We need you, professionals, parents, to be on board with dynamic assessment. Dynamic assessment means we put something into place. We have an idea, "Oh, this kid looks like he might be really good with this particular system. I might try that." We put it into place. We play with the child. And we assess ongoing. "Oh, when he did that, I did that. When I did that, he did that. Oh, let's play some more. Let's use it some more. Let's have a bit of a rethink, assess. Oh, let's try a different intervention with the same thing." But this ongoing dynamic assessment is weeks and weeks and months of fiddling around with things. That's the assessment that children with Angelman need. They need time. They need familiarity. A 30-minute assessment is not going to tell you anything except that that kid has Angelman. When we're looking at communication, a lot of people say, how does a child learn that what they're doing has meaning? How does a child learn that when they touch that thing, that has meaning? How does a child learn that when they do that with their head, that has meaning? One of the strategies that we use is called verbal referencing. And verbal referencing is simply saying what you see the child doing. So if you're saying, "I wonder if you'd like some more milk," and they look down, "Oh, you're putting your head down and up. You're telling me yes." And the kid's like, "Did I?" But you're saying, "Oh, look, your head went down and up. That's telling me yes. Here's your milk." And the kid's like, "Well, that worked. All right, do that again." When they reach and touch the symbol, the squiggle, and you say, oh, hurry up, all right, quick, Dad, let's hurry up. And everyone beetles around, we're hurrying. The kid's like, oh, I did that. Finn, one of the children with Angelman that I've worked with for a number of years, his first word using his communication system was cough. Of course, he pointed to it and his mum went, and he thought that was hysterical. So he pointed to it again and she went, oh, cough. And he's like, and you see the cogs turn, and that was Finn's first word. Now, when Finn was assessed for a communication device, he was assessed as only being able to use 2 buttons, one that said more and one that said finished. And his mum said, no, not on, sorry. We need a whole language system because I don't know what he wants to say. So she introduced a pod book, which is a type of communication system, and she used that book for months before Finn said cough. And I'll go to another slide because I just want to show you. We had one family, the lovely Jen and Jim, and Jen said to me, I need to introduce communication to my son with Angelman, and I don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. And I said, well, we could start with just some activity-based displays. Some families like to have a whole communication system. That's fine. Some families say, I'm actually not ready for that because life's a bucket of poo right now and I can't deal with that. So I said to Jen, when do you feel that you could start modelling, which means pointing to symbols and saying the word at the same time? It might be in the bath where the kids are contained and you're sitting on the toilet and you can just sit there and talk to yourself. Oh, wash hair, splash, splash, water all over the bloody floor, splash, splash. And she said, no, my kids are at bedtime, I've got one in each arm and I might be able to use it then. So we gave Jen a bedtime display. And sometimes Jen said, oh, it's time to go to bed. Good night, gorgeous boys. Sometimes she said, oh, do you want a book? Kiss and cuddle. Oh, let's sing a song. Sometimes she just said, go to bed. But Jen did this for months and months and months. And at the 6-month mark, Jen put a note on Facebook saying, sorry, that's a bit dodgy. Jen put a note on Facebook saying, he looked at it. And we said, woohoo! She said, he's licked it, scrunched it, poked it, chucked it, but he's never once looked at it while I'm doing it. It's like, he's taking it in. She's like, he looked at it. I'm going to get video. So, I don't have the video with me, I'm sorry, but the video was Cole's first word, and his first word after being exposed to this for over 6 months, every night, his first word was want, sing, teddy bear. And Jen was like, oh, okay. Now Cole didn't do that again for months. And this is what we need to understand about children with Angelman. They are consistently inconsistent. Because the whole planets have to align for the kids to know what they want to say, be motivated to say it, and get their arms to do it. So we are in this for the long haul. Let me just see where we're at. So this is just a couple of communication devices from the Angelman world. Communication is messy. So that one's covered in whipped cream, because whipped cream is always good to talk about. And these revolting things which look like they could be tested in a lab for all sorts of disgustingness, they are well-used, well-loved communication books. If a communication book looks perfect, it's not being used. If a communication system looks perfect, it's not being used. It's allowed to look grotty and gross and disgusting. The battery is allowed to go flat because it means it's being used. But how do we teach kids language? How do we teach our kids with Angelman to use AAC, to use alternative and augmentative communication? How do we teach them to point to symbols, to say what they want to say? Well, how do typically developing babies learn language? When you first held your typically developing baby, or when your sister first held her typically developing baby, did a speech therapist come in and look at that child and say, he's ready, you can talk to him? No, you just start talking. And that family talked to that baby for 12 months, 14 months, 18 months before that child said their first word. So we need to give our kids with Angelman that same respect of time, that we need to provide that receptive input for a bloody long time before we're expecting the expressive. Doing an assessment where I expect you to say something after me isn't language. I want your first word to be whatever it wants to be. I want you to have that cough moment where you figure out, hey, I can do this, and it means something, and it's about interaction and relationship and my mum being silly. When we're talking about teaching AAC, you'll hear words and phrases like aided language input, and that simply means talking to a child using symbols, so providing that input in an aided language way. You're aiding your speech with symbols. You'll talk about modelling, and it's not on the catwalk, but it's modelling. You're a model of what that language is. You're a model of when I point to this, that means hurry up, and then I beetle around. You're providing an immersive environment, and it will come in waves. There are some moments and some days you'll be so gung-ho about dragging that communication system everywhere and modelling, and there'll be some days where you're just grateful everyone's alive at the end of the day. So you've got to cut yourself some slack. This is the long-haul journey. Teaching language is about relationship and connection. It's not about sitting at a little table in front of each other and doing jobs on command. Teaching AAC is about teaching connection. It's about language and love. It's about being able to say, I love you, in a way that one day your child will be able to say to you in addition to a headlock. It's about the interaction. It's not about testing. And so when we go to Jen, that's what Jen was doing. She was modelling, oh, go to bed. She was pointing to the symbols. So how long do we do this for? We do this for months. We do it for weeks. For some children, we do it for a long, long time before they have that connection, and that's okay. Because if we give a typically developing child with no Angelman 18 months of input before we expect them to say anything, how dare we do anything less to a child who has a neurological issue? So the reason that you can use AAC, that you can use communication devices, there is one reason, and that's that you can read the label. So you could lose your voice today and you could use any English communication system there is simply because you could either type, if you're literate, or you could read the label if you're literate. So you could use this page at a party quite happily to say, it's birthday time, we're going to a party, booze, hooray. You got the card, got the present? Nope. You could use that. If you only had some literacy skills, it might look a bit like this. You might be able to use your emergent literacy skills to understand, well, that looks a bit like go. I've never seen those squiggles before. Your emergent literacy isn't going to help you with that giant word. So the only way you're going to learn what these symbols mean is by touching it and either having the voice output come out or having someone else say, oh, you said present. Yes, we did get a present. So you're touching it and you're learning what it means. To most of our kids with Angelman, their AAC system looks like that. It may as well be Greek. They've got no context for what this thing is, what these squiggles mean. But even if you can't read this, you still have a really great lived experience and a schema to know that that's a cake, that's a present, that's a card, that's some type of award thing. So you could probably give it a red hot go. If all the symbols look like that, you'd be stuffed. The only way you would be able to use that if you lost your voice today would be to touch it, play with it, fiddle with it, hear that word 87 times, or if it didn't have voice output, touch it and somebody saw you touch that symbol and they said, yes, the present. We did get a present. We got a present for Grandma. Remember when we went to the shop and we got a present? We got her that fantastic scarf. What a great present. And you would start to twig, okay, that's present, I can use that. This is what your kids with Angelman are dealing with. This is why it is criminal that we give them a 4-week trial and expect mastery. So it takes time, and it's okay that it takes time because this is language. We're not after compliance, we're not after touch the dog, we're after tell me about the dog. Oh, you've got a dog, what's his name? It's about relationship and connection. It's about communication autonomy. So when we look at how we're going to meet this goal, if we think about the motor planning issue, the skill that's needed is isolating an arm and a hand to reach and touch. That's the skill. So that's one of your OT, your physio skills that you're going to work on. So you're going to do games, you're going to do your cause and effect games, you're going to do banging on AAC and hearing them babble. You're going to use switch toys. But none of that, switch toys and games, that's not AAC. That's supporting your child to have access to language. So that's your physio activity, that's your play, that's your OT activity. But when everyone has the goal of communication autonomy, things like this will be put into place so your child can one day use the AAC. So all these pieces of the puzzle are working together to meet that communication autonomy goal. When the issue is motor planning and the skill needed for your child is independent mobility. Now, independent mobility may not be walking. It may be crawling, bum shuffling, scooting. It may be using a self-propelled wheelchair. It may be using a power chair. We walk or we move for 2 reasons: to move towards something or to move away from something. So our children need to learn that's a way of communicating. If I'm sitting here with my girlfriends talking, and my child is getting agitated, sometimes it's going to be easier for them, rather than getting my attention and using their communication device to say, go, 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 if they can just bum shuffle off, they're telling me, go, I want to go. So independent mobility is a skill that helps towards communication autonomy. So your physios need to understand we're not walking for walking's sake. We're not walking the halls of the school for walking's sake. We are walking to something, we have a purpose, or we are walking away from something. When babies and toddlers, typically developing toddlers and babies, stand up to walk, they don't go, oh, I might go for a stroll. They walk towards a toy, or they walk away from mum and then look back and go, check me out. There is a purpose. And we need to share with our child, you are doing this for a purpose. You are rolling so that you can get that toy. You are rolling so you can get to daddy and he can give you a tickle. You are bum shuffling so you can go over there and get the biscuits out of the cupboard. All of that movement is working towards communication autonomy. So you can tell me what you want to tell me in your own way at any point of time. The sensory processing. If we look at the goal of independent sitting, it may be you're sitting in tubs, you're sitting in squeeze swings, you're wearing compression garments. You may be sitting in supported seating, like an activity chair. You may need to sit in your special chair at meal times so you can concentrate on your sitting. But that sitting goal is also working towards how you're developing your core, how you're developing your body so you can learn to isolate the limbs. So you can sit and play by yourself. So you can entertain yourself and show me what you want to do rather than me always suggesting things to you. So you can reach and grab for different toys when you're sitting. You need to have that stable base of your body. So when your physio and your OT know that your goal is communication autonomy, I want her to show me the toy. I want her to be able to sit there, stabilise herself, weight shift and reach for that toy to say, hey mum, I want this toy. If the issue is cortical vision impairment and the skill that we need to teach is visually attending to symbols, that might be a long-term goal. We're starting towards visually attending to symbols. We are going to provide exposure to symbols in meaningful context throughout the day. We're going to use a little flashlight to draw the eyes and the brain's attention to the symbols. We're going to use pull-off symbols and bring it into the child's visual field. But we're also going to work on vision separately. We're going to work on using the cause and effect apps on the iPad, using the Little Bear Sees app. We're going to work on engaging that brain to visual information so that we can meet that goal of using alternative and augmentative communication as well. Some of our children with Angelman syndrome actually, who have cortical vision impairment, do really well simply with a skill called partner-assisted scanning. So they're not visually attending to symbols. We're reading out, would you like this, or something else? And they're saying yes to the one that they want. So your child does not have to be able to see the symbols in order to access AAC and comprehensive language systems. But it certainly helps and makes life easier and quicker if they can. If your child's issue at the moment is seizure activity, then sometimes attending to symbolic language is really hard. If your brain's really fuzzy, attending to two-dimensional squiggles is really hard. So we're going to provide you with exposure in meaningful context throughout the day when you are clear-headed. We're going to use different strategies. When you're really affected by seizure activity, rather than just saying, do you want a toy? On the AAC, I might bring you a couple of actual toys and you can just choose the actual object. So having that skill to use different times throughout the day and not feeling depleted that you're not using the AAC system all the time. That's okay. Kids need to learn to make choices between things. They also need access to whole language. So when we go back and think about adding onto our natural language inventory, we can add modelling in so we can all be on the same page again. So when Grandpa comes and Michael squeals and flaps his arms and we think he's excited, then we can model, I love you, on the communication book. So we can say, oh, Grandpa, I love you, I love you. So one day, Michael can say, I love you to Grandpa. When the iPad battery is flat and Michael's having a meltdown, we can say, I know you're angry. Something's wrong, you're angry. I'm pointing to the angry symbol. I'm showing him something's wrong, you're angry. I can help. So he's learning it's okay to have emotions, how to talk about my emotions, how to ask for help. And we can always say hurry up and more at meal times. So what is best practice for young children with Angelman syndrome? Best practice is collaborative teams working with families to support whole child development, not in isolated pockets. Working with teams, everyone on the same page, what is our overarching goal? What is my role to help you get there? What's my piece of the puzzle? Best practice for young people with Angelman is access to speech therapists who are skilled in AAC and who know how to support families and model comprehensive AAC. If your speech therapist is not skilled, and many aren't because they don't get much training, and many speech therapists actually feel terrible guilt that they aren't trained in AAC and don't know how to help you. But it's your right to ask for someone else, because this is your child's language system and your child is in the early years and you're in the early years of this and you need the best support there is. So sometimes we have to put on our big girl pants and say, I really don't want to offend you, but I actually need someone who knows what they're doing. And probably say it nicer than that. Best practice is the implementation of a comprehensive AAC system that enables you, the parents, to model all the functions of language. So you can model commenting, you can model complaining, oh, yuck, gross. You can model toilet talk if you want to, if your kid's at that age. You can model silly jokes. You can model fart noises, anything that gets your kid engaged. It's not just requesting. It's not just about more and finish. It's about developing a language. Implementation of a comprehensive AAC system that enables the child to babble and learn to use is best practice. Your child needs to learn what those symbols mean when they touch it. If everything's always in Greek and they're not allowed to babble on it, they're not going to learn. The last thing that's really important is that implementation of early literacy routines, shared reading, exploring books, chewing books, throwing books, cuddling with dad and reading books, singing silly rhyme songs is all critical to your child's early literacy experience. We are seeing amazing things in the literacy of children with Angelman syndrome. We are seeing children with Angelman who are reading early readers, who are reading at a grade 1 level. We are seeing children with Angelman who are starting to use keyboards to bang out words that actually look a lot like the words they're trying to write. This has been a huge workload of families and teachers who are committed to literacy instruction, and Jane will be talking more about that in the middle of the day. But falling in love with books is key. For many of our children, it might be a book on an iPad. It might be books on YouTube. But falling in love with books and stories is key, because if you fall in love with books, you will do anything to try and work out what those squiggles are. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to open it up. Thank you so much. We are going to open it up to questions, and we have a good amount of time. We have like 18 minutes for questions. Siobhan and I will come around the room.
Hello, thanks for that. My question is because you mentioned that perception is opportunity, or driving opportunity, and my kid is 2.5, and I was just wondering, because we are told that we don't need to surround her with thousands of stuff because she will be totally lost with it. Mm-hmm. So what is the you're probably going to say depends, but what is the right rhythm to expose her to all these systems, so that she's not lost, really?
Okay, so what languages do you speak at home?
French.
So we have children with Angelman who understand 2 and 3 languages. So your child isn't going to be overwhelmed with anything. Your child can learn. What we need to do is understand what the pace that we can cope with of implementing this. So I usually tend to take it slow, and it may be that you and your partner decide, guess what, for the first week, we're just going to carry that communication system with us wherever we go. Because you can be the world's best modeler of any communication system, but if it's not with you, it ain't going to happen. So you've got to problem solve how you're going to carry that thing everywhere. How are you going to have language available in the bath? How are you going to have language, available at the park? And then sometimes some families like to pick a couple of words a week. So it might be go. If your kid's really motivated to go places, every time you leave the house, time to go. Every time you're leaving the park, time to go. You're on the swing, let's go higher. Some families like to work on a communication function for a couple of weeks. So it might be commenting. So you learn where the language is in that device, and for a couple of weeks you go, I like this. Oh, darling, what a lovely meal. I love this. Oh, mother-in-law's coming. Great. All that kind of stuff. Okay, so you model a communication function for a couple of days. So you're eating the elephant in tiny bites. Because when we simply hand families a communication system and say, here you go, it costs $10,000, go for it, it doesn't work. You've got to learn to chunk down this enormous responsibility into something that's doable. And when you take it slow and choose a couple of words, choose a couple of sentences that you can model, within a couple of weeks you feel like you're actually doing it. And then you think, I can try something else. So we never just start with 1 or 2 words. We always start with a whole communication system, but we choose which words we're going to implement. So in the olden days, the children had to prove that they can use 2 symbols, and then when they can use 2, we'd give them 4. When they used 4, we'd give them 8, and then have to learn where they all were all the time. Now we say we're going to give you a whole comprehensive system which has got thousands of words, and we're going to be the one to teach you what all these words mean. But you've got to have that whole system with you at all times, because you never know when a turtle's going to run out in front of you and you want that word turtle. You never know when you're at the zoo and your kid's been watching Mr. Popper's penguins on repeat for 15 days and suddenly you actually see a penguin and you're like, this is the thing you've been seeing, penguin, this is it, penguin. And then they go, penguin. So you've got to have that language with you all the time, which is why we really push for, with our speech therapists and our educators, that actually the child might not be ready to use any symbols. They might not have a reach and touch. They might not have a yes, no. But it doesn't mean we're not ready to talk to them. And you think back to that little baby who had to prove nothing before someone talked to them. And that's what we're doing. We're talking to them for a limited time before one day they will start banging on at us. That all right? Okay.
I just want to say first, thank you so much for an informative and reassuring talk.
Oh, you're welcome.
My daughter is 2, and when she interacts with her device, she's raking.
Yep.
And I know that's very common. Do we just support that interaction, or should we be doing more to, really push for the finger isolation at this point? Or
if she's 2, I would say no. If she's going to develop a point, it will come probably somewhere between 5 and 8. Okay. Mind you, we've taught 40-year-olds to develop a point. But at 2, I would say raking is developmentally appropriate. Okay. So sometimes what you can do is absolutely respond to everything that she says. If you know she's aiming for that cell, oh, you said that. Sometimes having a light text screenshot printed out and laminated so she can rake across, but you know which one she's touching or she's aiming for, rather than activating every single one on the screen. Has she got a key guard?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I would say do some parallel programming. So you've got your language acquisition going down this track, and you've got your fine motor coming down this track. So working with your IoT, doing your finger pincer games, doing your finger isolation work, putting things into tubes, poking things, poking putty, all of that is going to work so that one day these 2 will meet. Okay. But at 2, I wouldn't be stressed about it. Yep.
And just to piggyback, she does like to also interact with her feet.
Oh, yes.
So do we support that interaction, or we form a bad habit that way?
Feet, noses.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it all. Sometimes what we do is, you're using your foot, I'm going to use my hand. Da, da, da. Okay. But if she's got more control over her feet at that point, that's fine. And she's 2. She's got a whole life. At some point, she might want to, wear Prada shoes and think, I'm not going to use my feet anymore, I'm going to use my hand. So if we're modelling all the different ways that she can do it, but if she's getting a good reaction from that, I'd just make sure that she was getting a really good reaction from using her hand.
Hi, I want to repeat, just thank you. You are amazing.
Thank you.
So kind of piggybacking on the last question, do you advocate doing the, always modeling the entire more robust system? Our son can tap at it. He is interested in it. He gets the cause and effect. He can isolate his, or he doesn't isolate his pointer finger. If we had bigger buttons, he could probably tap one, but because we've got the buttons fairly small, he can't only hit one. Do you still advocate always doing the smaller buttons to model?
Is he on LAMP or?
We're on ProLoco to go.
Okay, so how many cells have you got?
I think we have 20.
Okay, so 20 would be the minimum that you'd go for, because any less than that, and it's really hard to model language. Does he have a key guard?
Not yet.
Okay, so I'd get a key guard.
Okay.
Quite a high key guard. and then at least he'll be able to get his fingers in.
Okay.
You can also get key guards that rather than having square holes, they've got the square, like the cell is like that, but then in the middle there's a circle that's opened, so the kid can just poke their little fingers in and access the middle of the cell.
Wow.
So talk to the OT and speech therapist about trialling different key guards, because to go any less than 20 just won't give you enough language to model on Prolo to go.
What do you recommend? We'll go whatever number of cells you think is best.
No, 20 is
Okay.
great.
Okay.
And I would say that, in 5 years he might be up to 45. But try a key guard first and work on that parallel programming, doing your cause and effect stuff, doing fart putty, trying to get just 2 fingers into a tub of fart putty, that kind of stuff, to really teach him that actually you can have power with this thing. And when you're teaching finger isolation, you'll see a lot of OTs, physios, educators will hold the child's hand and try and get them to do that. Now, if you hold your own hand like this, you're only getting feedback to this part. If you don't know that you have a pointer, you're not getting any feedback to this thing here. So what we need to do is actually squeeze the finger and say, this is the bit you need to use. Squeeze, squeeze, and then give the child opportunity to use it. Because if we're just holding them here, they're getting no feedback from this whatsoever. So we're squeezing and saying, you need to use your finger. Oh, give it a big squeeze, wake it up. Okay, poke. And then we're teaching them. That's what this thing is for. That make sense?
Yes. One last follow-up. It sounds like you are not pro kind of hiding any of the buttons to still, even if you have the 20 cells,
Yeah.
having some of them blacked out, but it seems like you just want them all available.
Well, if you're using a really strategic unmasking, so masking is where you hide some of the symbols. If you're doing a word a week and you are strategically unmasking and you're doing LAMP or MinSpeak or that kind of process with another system, but you have a strategy for unmasking, that's fine. What I see too often is when I go in and the child has only 6 cells open on like a 42 device, and I'll say, what's your strategy for unmasking? Oh, we do a word a week. I go back a year later and there's still 6 cells there. We need to be really careful that we are opening up language, because we never know what's the word that's going to motivate the kid. It might not be more food, Christmas cracker, goldfish cracker, whatever the hell they are. So it might be fart. Oh, great, Dad does a fart noise. You just don't know. So that's why we tend to not use masking as much.
Do you have a favorite program?
No, the most common programs for children with Angelman would be POD, Prolo to go. There are some teenagers using touch chat word power, but some children find that the touch chat word power, because it comes up with predictably associated vocabulary, it's changed too fast and they can't follow the model. So Prolo to go and POD are definitely the 2 most common. We also have some LAMP and MinSpeak users. The issue with LAMP and MinSpeak is that if it's not support, the family aren't supported, if the daycare staff aren't supported to understand how to use it, it just doesn't get used, because you need to learn the motor planning and the strategies. So as long as you've got lots of training and you know how to do it, then you're good, because your kid will learn anything.
All amazing. Thank you so much.
That's okay. I think we've got time for one more.
Yeah, we have time for one more question. And before we get to that question, I just want to tell you about the next session. So the next session that was planned for this room is canceled because one of our speakers was not able to make it. So the next session next door is going to be language and literacy with Jane Farrell. It'll be amazing. So after this question, you have like 5 minutes max to head over there, but there'll be plenty of other opportunities to ask Mary-Louise questions, because she's doing the session after lunch and then she's on the panel as well.
Yes, and the session this afternoon, I'll be talking about what we've learnt in the last 10 years and what we know works.
Hi, I had a question about what you said. Sorry, I'm over here.
Oh, sorry.
So we're getting a communication device. We're getting the paperwork through now, and our therapist said she was going to start with 2 and 4. I would like to be able to model with more than that.
Yes.
But of course, he doesn't have the finger isolation yet.
Yep.
So would you say it would be good just to stay with the 2 and the 4 for now and then start modeling more? Or can
What's the system? Do you know what you've...
I think we're using Pod on a Tobii Dynavox.
So if you're using Pod, you never mask.
Okay.
Gail Porter, who invented Pod, is adamant that you do not mask because you do not know what the child is going to say, so you do not hide any buttons. So Pod on Compass app or the grid from Tobii Dynavox or Smartbox will have 15 cells, and you have all 15 open and you model that whole thing.
Okay.
So Gail has some webinars on the Tobii Dynavox site, and if you or your speech therapist have the opportunity to go to Pod training, I'd highly recommend it. It's a brilliant training. It doesn't matter what system you're going to use, Pod training is exceptional. So absolutely, I wouldn't be hiding any buttons on Pod because you would be going against the philosophy of Pod,
Okay.
which is all language all the time.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
That's all right.
Would it be possible to get your slides at all?
Yes, I can talk to the girls about that, no probs. Thank you very much, everybody.